Hey folks, Eric here from Dirty Old Sneakers, and I've been using the Garmin Enduro 2 for a few months. I have some insights. But first, I need to tell you that this is a loaner unit that I got from the good folks over at playbetter.com. I will be returning this along with the sample of the Enduro 1 that they sent when I'm done doing this review. And if you'd like either of these watches, it would be really helpful to me if you use one of the links that I put below. I want you to know that these are affiliate links, which means that I'm going to make a small percentage of each sale. It won't impact the price you pay. My share comes out of their side. If you prefer, there are also Amazon links below. There are also affiliate links, but I just make a smaller portion of the sale from Amazon. So I prefer if you use PlayBetter, but I get it if you want to use the Amazon links. Either way, I'd be grateful if you use either of them if you want to get the Enduro 2 for yourself. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get to the actual watch. I really like the Enduro 1. In fact, you can see that video over here. I think that's a good place to start. Let's talk about what they did differently on this watch than they did from the 1. First, we need to talk about the physical watch. The new watch is slightly larger than the original, which means that this one continues to be the largest watch in the Garmin lineup. It comes in at an astounding 51 by 15.6 millimeters as compared to 51 by 14.9 millimeters. So slightly bigger. This is a watch that makes a statement. In fact, of all the Garmins that I've worn, and there have been plenty of them over the years, this so far has been the only one that people continue to comment on. How big it is, how much I must be compensating for something. I just happen to like me a big watch. Now, the bezel on the original either came in stainless or coated titanium. The Enduro 2 comes with no stainless option, titanium only. Now, both use a 26 millimeter strap that can be quick release or this hook and loop that they put in the box. I found recently that the Garmin silicone bands have been annoying my skin, so I've been partial to these nylon bands, even going so far as to trade it out on my daily watch, the 7X Sapphire Solar. I was originally worried that the nylon would stay wet after I shower or get so sweaty in the summer that it would not only smell bad, but offend people near me. I'm happy to announce that neither worry came true. I don't seem to be offending anybody, at least by the smell from my watch. It seems to dry pretty quick after I shower, and as long as I'm showering with it, it seemingly has remained odor-free. Okay, so other physical updates. This one has a touchscreen, but the display remains the same with 280 by 280 pixels and 1.4 inches in diameter. Oh, and this one's covered in Garmin's Power Sapphire. The other one came in Garmin's Power Glass. And it includes the new LED flashlight thing that we saw introduced in the Garmin Fenix 7. I love this feature. I find myself using the flashlight all the time. The safety blinky thingy, not so much, but if it's helping runners to be more safe, I'm all for it. Hey, before we get too far into it, if you wouldn't mind smashing that like button below to get this up to the YouTube algorithm a little bit more, might get it into more eyeballs of folks that might find it useful, and it does great things for my channel and for the video, and I greatly appreciate anything that you can do to help that. So let's talk about battery life, because that's where these giant Garmin watches shine. And if you were to look at this one on its surface, the battery life is fantastic. Here are the different options and the battery consumption for each. Now, if I were to compare that to the battery consumption and the options for the Enduro 1, it seems to be lacking. Here are those stats. So why the difference? Well, you can see that features like multi-band SAT functions take up a lot of juice, and I'll get into the multi-band SAT functions in a minute. I mean, that makes sense. More features, more power. But it appears that the watch itself takes more juice to operate. Why do I say that? Look at the smartwatch section. The 2 is up to 34 days, 46 days with solar, and the 1 is up to 50 days, 65 days with solar. If you take the solar factor out, that's almost double. So let's take a look at those smartwatch features that might just be playing a role in the battery consumption. The major differences are things like the on-device Connect IQ store. This is a pretty big misnomer. You don't get access to the entire Connect IQ library for any given watch on the unit itself. At best, Garmin gives you a selection of apps, screens, and watch faces to choose from. But I honestly don't see what the issue is with using your phone. I mean, it's all wirelessly synced to your watch anyway, right? Okay, so Connect IQ Store on the unit. Check. Then you get real-time sync settings. Something else that's not going to take up a lot of battery life. Now, this is a fancy term that means you can set up a number of data points and a number of screens you want for a given activity on the app to then show on your watch. Garmin Connect will then sync it wirelessly to your watch, and voila. Now you might be thinking, Eric, why is it so important to you? You only set up the data screens on the data points once, right? What's the big deal? My answer to you would be no, I don't just set them up once. I'm constantly checking the metrics I want to see and the number of screens on the activity based on the workouts that I'm doing for that week. Also, there are other aspects of the setup that I need to change for different profiles. Like usually I'd want to set auto lap at each mile so I can see what my splits are. But what if I was trying to hit a specific average speed for an interval that isn't a mile? Maybe it's a half or a quarter mile. With cooldowns in between, those intervals would be near impossible to see what the average pace was for the interval unless I use the lap button to trip it. Things like that are now easily changed and set up via Garmin Connect Mobile. So rather than spending what equates to hours of my life pushing the buttons on this little watch, or in this case, this really big watch, I can now use the app to say it with me, set it, and forget it. The Enduro 2 has music on board, which you can listen to and control from the watch. And should you want to use and control music from your phone, you can also do that from your watch. Now we need to get into working out. But before I get into the profiles, I need to talk to you about the sensors, because the sensors really drive a lot of the options in the profiles. Satellite sensors included are GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, multi-frequency positioning, and SatIQ technology. I'm going to nerd out on the satellite stuff for a hot minute, so if you want to skip this part, you can go to this time in the video. Why do all these watches use satellites? Well, at its very core, this watch will help you by giving you your pace over distance and a nice little course map at the end. And at the end of the day, that's how Garmin got started. All of this other stuff like profiles, heart rate monitors, music, etc., 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 that's all just fluff. If you didn't get your pace over distance, what good would the watch be as a training tool? Anyway, to get pace and distance, you need to have something tracking you. Enter 1 million satellites up in the sky, with a number of them basically attached to your watch during any given activity. This is what gives you all the data that you crave. But let's look a little bit deeper. In the US, we use GPS as a generic term to mean satellite tracking. The technical generic term for sat tracking is Global Navigation Satellite System, or GNSS for short. Now, this refers to a constellation of satellites providing signals from space that transmit positioning and timing data to a GNSS receiver. The receiver, in this case your watch, uses that data to determine location. So not to get too technical, but there are different standards for these different systems that are used around the world. The one in the US is called Navstar Global Positioning System, which we just call GPS. Russia's is called GLONASS, the EU's is Galileo, and China's is Beidou Navigation Satellite Systems. Now, just because these systems were built to the specs of each of the different countries, or group of countries in the case of the EU, does not mean that you can only use them in that country. That is, you can use GLONASS in the US, Galileo in Afghanistan, or whichever system where you are, wherever in the world. Hence the term global in the positioning system. Now, why all the different systems? Well, the short answer is because each country or set of countries in the case of the EU has its own satellite technology. So think of this as a Ford versus Toyota situation rather than, say, a Jeep versus sports car situation. Okay, back to the watch. First, there's multi-frequency positioning, and that's just what it sounds like. It uses all of the satellites the watch can plug into at the same time. Garmin is able to track with, like I said earlier, GPS, Galileo, and GLONASS. Remember that they all cover the entire globe, so using all of them at once will give you that much more accuracy in your stats. So you go from using one that may look like this to using many, which will look like this. But using all of them comes at a cost. As you can see, it's a huge drain on the battery. And here's where the Enduro 2 has a brain like no other Garmin watch before it. It includes what they're calling SatIQ. Garmin SatIQ helps to determine the optimal GPS mode based on your surroundings. So, SatIQ can figure out when multiband GNSS is needed, like near tall buildings or in dense forest, or when low-power GPS mode can achieve the same accuracy, like in a more open area. By choosing auto-select in the satellite settings, SatIQ can automatically toggle between GPS modes in order to maximize battery life without compromising positional accuracy. Nice touch. That's going to take up a lot of battery to figure out, right? Anyway, other sensors in the watch don't take so much explanation. Wrist-based heart rate monitor, a barometric altimeter, a compass, and a gyroscope. Now, the Enduro is focused on the trail running ultra community, but it can be used interchangeably with the Fenix or any other battery-rich Garmin watch, or if you just like to have a big-ass watch on your wrist. So you'll get all the different profiles you used to, like running, cycling, swimming, gym workouts, outdoor rec, golf. I know, golf. Along with some other safety and tracking features. So rather than go through everything that's offered on all of the different profiles, I'll just hit some of the highlights along with the differences. On the gym profile, you get auto rep counting, on-screen animations, and profiles for this list of activities. You'll notice that HIIT and yoga are additions since the Enduro 1 came out. For running, these are the profiles that are included. Outdoor track has been added since the Enduro 1. The Enduro also has all of these training tools included. These are the profiles included for outdoor recreation. A lot of them, right? I love that pickleball is included in everything now. There are also a crazy amount of map features, and here's what those look like. Other outdoor features include things like these. Then there are the cycling profiles, and here are all the ones that are included. And lastly, but not leastly, swimming, and those profiles are listed here. I love some of the swimming features. They include stroke detection, a rest timer, and it actually makes the heart rate monitor work underwater, so you get underwater wrist-based heart rate. Is the Enduro right for you? Well, do you need all the features that I just talked about? Do you like a big watch on your wrist? Do you like crazy amounts of battery life? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then the answer is yes, this is the right watch for you. Now, if you'd like any of the watches that I mentioned, I put links in the description of this video for a few buying options. Now, like I said earlier, they are affiliate links, but they will just go to help fund the channel and come at no expense to you. And if you like this video, I'm obligated by the YouTube terms of service to ask you to smash that like button below, get it up to the YouTube algorithm a little bit more, and it's more eyeballs that just might help find it useful. I'm also obligated to ask you to subscribe to this channel if you like gear reviews, race reviews, New York City Marathon tips, or anything endurance sports related. And to hit that bell next to it so you get notified when I put new videos up just about every week. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.